X-rays of La Tempesta show this curdling nude arisen, faint as ectoplasm, from flowing water which no longer fills the eventual foreground. I decided to read from section X of the Book of Ephraim because it reflects on the archive beneath a work of art, and therefore gestures towards what we preserve here in special collections. In this section, Merrill alludes to the ungainly figure invisible in the left foreground of Giorgione's La Tempesta. Invisible because overpainted and replaced by a gorgeous, heroic youth. Recent X-ray investigation had revealed her as a kind of repressed content that Merrill supposes is made otherwise visible, that is, figured, by the now visible surface of Giorgione's painting, with its images, I'm quoting here, images that hint at meanings we had missed by simply looking. The rest of the section speaks of other expressive obscurings and also of illuminations of biographical scholarship like Professor Hammer's, all of which lights up, as scholarship now and then does, a matter hitherto overpainted. The absence from these pages of my own mother, because of course she's here throughout, the breath drawn after every line, essential to its making, as to mine. I picked section X not only because it has something nice to say about what scholarship contributes to the experience of art, and of what technology, X-rays, or say digitization, can contribute to what scholarship can contribute. The X-ray of scholarship inevitably comes after the lovely fact of Venetian art, as section X comes well after section V, where Merrill first describes Giorgione's painting of a tempest as something to which visitors retreat when it's raining too hard outside. Who are these thousands entering the dark arc of the moment, two by two, hurriedly as by hazard paired, some pausing on the bridge for a last picture, touching, strange, if either use the word, this need of theirs to be forever smiling, holding still for the other, the companion focusing through tiny frames of anxiousness. There, come. Some have come from admiring, others are hurrying to sit out the storm in the presence of Giorgione's Tempesta. On the surface, nothing less than earthly life in all its mystery. Man, woman, child, a place, shatterproof glass inflicting on it a fleet blur of couples, many of whom by now have reproduced. The third reason I wanted to read a bit from the X-ray section is that it indicates something particularly characteristic about Merrill's epic poetry. It's particularly graphic character, a character that makes it, at crucial moments, almost impossible to read aloud. In the passage I read before, the reference to the absence from these pages is hardly casual. It refers us to the material actuality of the visible page, and also, of course, to what is absent from it. That reference to the mother's essential presence in the breath drawn after every line makes some dent upon the ear, but you can't quite hear the comma and the line break that follows after every line. And I can't make you see what Merrill wants us to see and not see as the absence from these pages. The line break is a figure of not speech, just as Giorgione's Tempest is a figure of the unseen. I knew it would be prudent to steer clear of passages containing effects that can't be read aloud, but they're everywhere and inevitable. Section K, a whirlwind Eurasian travelogue, sweeps across a geography studded with mirrors, gems, and polished platforms, one reflective surface after another, and it's not that the ear can't make sense of all this visual dazzle, but it can't quite detect the visual pun that presides over the entire section. the fact that the letter K is the physicist's glyph of reflection. Right? I might have read from H, which is less subtle, since Merrill actually explains the visual pun contained in its dominant letter. It is at once a kind of trapeze and a version of Keats's magic casement. The letter, a sketch of the leading of a window that swings out, carrying with it the image of a festive domestic interior, precariously suspended over darkness. High upon darkness, emptiness, at a height our stories equaled, on a pain's trapeze had swung beyond the sill now this entire rosy lit interior. Food, drink, people at table, sheer Gemütlichkeit of insupportable hypotheses hovering there. The crucial visual pun of X is a bit more difficult. It lurks not in the dominant letter, but in the figure of middle-aged inconclusiveness with which the section ends, in the ellipsis points, ... which are made to figure both as black holes, energized absentings, and as the prickles of a physical foot that has gone to sleep and then awakens metrically. And you'll notice that the pattern here of rejuvenation to which Stephen Yenser alluded in this morning's presentation. Anyway, because punctuation is unpronounceable, all I can do is gesture to it, can only point out the way that Merrill points out. What I think I feel now, by its own nature, remains beyond my power to say outright, short of grasping the naked current where it flows through field and book, dog howling, the firelit glances, the caresses, whatever draws us to and insulates us from the absolute. The absolute, which wonderfully this slow December noon of clear blue time zones flown through toward relatives and friends more and more sounds like the kind of pear-bellied early instrument skills all but lost are wanted, or the phoenix quill of passion to pluck a minor scale from, and to let the silence after each note sing. So time has, but who needs that nom de plume? We've modulated, keys ever remoter lock our friend among the golden things that go without saying. The love's no longer called up or named. We've grown autumnal, mild. We've reached a stage through him that he will never himself reach. Back underground he sinks, a stream, the latest recurrent figure out of mythology, to lend his young beauty to a living grave, in order that earth bloom another season. Shall I come lighter-hearted to that spring tide, knowing it must be fathomed without a guide, with no one, nothing along those lines or these, whose writing, if not justifies, so mirrors, so embodies up to now some guiding force, it can't simply be written off. In neither the world's poem nor the poem's world have I learned to think for myself much. The twinklings of insight hurt or elude the naked eye. No metrical lens to focus them, no kismet veiled as a stern rhyme sound, to obey whose wink floods with rapture its galaxy of sisters, muse and maker, each at a loss without the, oh, but my foot has gone to sleep. Gingerly, I prod it, painful, slow, hilarious twinges of reawakening, recirculation, pulsars intuiting the universe once more, this net of loose talk tightening to verse, and verse once more revolving between poles, gassy expansion and succinct collapse, till heaven, is all peppered with black holes, vanishing points for the superfluous matter elided, just in time, perhaps, by the conclusion of a passage thus,